There's something for every imagination at your local comic shop. Visit comicshoplocator.com to find a store near you.
Everybody, oh wow, I need to move in. Hi everybody, this is this is so cool. All I know why is because we're in space. See, we're in space. Hey, hi. Hey, I'm Miss Jen, and this is
Bean. Hi.
And we're up front here at Space Cadets Collection doing our Minute to Skim It show. So if you hear people out there, they're shopping for comic books, and they're super happy folk. We do this show specifically so you know what's coming out. I know that some of our comic books look really weird this week, like they're pieces of paper. That's totally true because Diamond notified us and probably lots of local comic shops out there that our books are going to be 72 hours later than they normally arrive to shops.
Yeah. Which
puts them here. It's like, I give up. I don't. Some math day. Doesn't matter because there's plenty of really good comic books out there for you to go pick up to pass the time. You should be able to find all your Marvel, all your DC, and some of your local comic shops might even have their Source Point or their Scout books on the rack. So just go and support them because they're dealing with this chaos just like you're dealing with this chaos, just making it work.
I'm going to be doing a couple of books today, which were supposed to come out last week, but you know what? Your comic shop probably just got them too this week. So they're probably still out on the rack, So we're going to be doing a little time travel back.
Yeah, I like doing this, honestly, because I really do feel like maybe people went maybe to their local comic shop this week on Wednesday, and maybe their local comic shop didn't get them in until Thursday. So they might be on the racks new for them when they go in this week. So they might think, for us, we've gotten really confused about what was come out on what week. So there's going to be lots of things that say new because they're new to us.
Yeah.
There's amazing things that are out this week. So we're going to give you guys, we're going to start with some reviews. You want to start with one of the ones that was out last week, but we want definitely for people to know about this so they don't miss it.
Oh, yes.
Hey, Drew.
I'm going to pick this one first because this one, I picked it up, and this is Monkey Meat #1. And I picked this up because it kind of reminded me of like Tank Girl vibes. I think it's kind of like the like animal nature of it and everything. And I was like, well, this is cool, but I did not know anything about it. And I went in totally blind, and I read it and was absolutely blown away. And this has become like my favorite comic that I've probably read in the last couple of weeks. I love it so much. So this is the story of an evil corporation who has taken over an island, and they are selling canned monkey meat, because like, and I believe that they say that the world has entered some sort of like, severe like food issue, like where people can't get food.
That they're driven to having to source other proteins. Okay.
And so if I'm understanding it right, they are using like a secret evil formula to make the monkeys giant, so there's more meat, and then they can it. And there's like this one little local creature who's sentient, who's been helping them to hunt the giant monkeys. And he is like the protagonist of this story, which it says that it's an anthology. So I don't know if this is his one story. I mean, he does get in a really bad situation at the end, so I don't know if we're going to see Lug again. But it's wild. There's weird supernatural elements going on. There's almost like a superhero who can like convince anyone of anything, called the Negotiator. Like, this is a wild book, and it is so good.
We all need a monkey negotiator.
Yeah. So it's such an awesome one. It really surprised me. I don't know why. I think that I just picked up and thought maybe this will just be all, style, no substance, but there is lots of substance there.
And it had a lot of buzz. I saw a lot of retailers talking about it in retailer rooms. I saw a lot of collectors talking about it in their fan rooms. So it's not one of those just like flash in the pan, maybe we just enjoyed it. It looks like the world at large that has gotten to read it from last week really loved it. Mm-hmm. Drew says the art's insane.
Yes.
And Lee looks like they're going to pick that copy up. That just don't get frustrated, because it is so popular that your local comic shop might need to wait for like a second print or something. We just have ours, like we said, because we literally didn't get to put them on the rack until like Thursday of this week. So
yeah. So it's going to be interesting. Maybe people will have more opportunities to buy some of these that usually would be gone, because, it's kind of like a gamble. Like, what are we going to get? So
what Elon Musk spelled backwards is a supervillain negotiator. Mm-hmm. No, that doesn't work. It was like going, wait a minute, it's the wrong letters. Mm-hmm. All right. There are a lot of books that have first appearances of either characters that you've known or brand new that you've never heard of before this week. So I'm going to try to remember which ones of the ones we're reviewing that have those in them, in case you're a person that loves to collect first appearances. And this is one of them. This one is Devil's Reign Superior 4, first appearance of the Superior 4. And in this case, they have taken, so Doc Ock, who has come back to ASM also, by the way, he's super important again, has come and has looked across all the possible worlds, like when you're talking about Earth 2279, Earth 6653, whatever. Yeah. He's looked across all of them and believes himself to be one of the immutable objects, the ones that, like, for every single Earth there is a him. And he has contacted in this one another 3 of himself that he deems to want to deal with.
Yeah.
So imagine other Marvel superheroes or villains, but instead versions of them that have octopus-like appendages. So I'm not going to spoil it by telling you which ones. Maybe it's out there and you could look up who they are, but I don't want to wreck it for you, because it's so cool how they've done it creatively. And it's just a really great story. Again, I keep on picking up books like this and expect them to be kind of like filler fluff that don't make any difference for the world. But this feels like something that might, those characters from those worlds might be able to carry books on their own, honestly, because they're things you would have never just come up with on your own. Mm-hmm. You kind of want to kick yourself in the face. Like, of course, this makes all the sense in the world. Yes, this exists in some other world. So enjoy reading this one. I highly recommend you picking it up, even if the Superior 4 never really happened again outside of the Devil's Reign. I can't imagine that, but enjoy it just for seeing Doc Ock try his very best to make himself the center of all things.
Yeah.
Like he likes to do.
Oh my goodness. All right. This is another one from last week, and this is the fourth man with the wavy inflatable tube man with blood on him because someone's been murdered. Because this is a crime comic, like old school, like, oh, I don't know, like I'd say classic crime. Starts off, two detectives are going to the morgue because they have, I believe that they have 3 bodies laying in the morgue, and they've got to go find out, who killed these guys because they've all been murdered. And so this first issue is the story of the very first body, which is the only one they have identification for. And it starts off with these detectives and then goes to flashback and shows you what happened with this guy. It kind of reminds me a little bit of how Quentin Tarantino will be like, oh, here's a thing. Yes. And then, oh, actually, here's what happened to bring you to it. Also, and I don't think this is official in any way, and like, I love the artist for doing it. Paul Giamatti stars in this. Like, that's clearly
it's drawn
like,
exactly
yes,
as him.
It's clearly like, at least for me, it looks just like Paul Giamatti. So I was like, I love this. Paul Giamatti is starring in my comic book I'm reading.
He's so good, honestly, in movies where, I mean, because he looks kind of like an unassuming guy that, like, of course.
Yeah.
But he is such a good bad guy in things like Shoot 'Em Up.
Yeah.
When he's just like, that's a despicable human being. And but I'm terrified of him.
Yes. But yeah, so if you like crime, I think that this is only going to be 4 issues. I guess the fourth man, each one is a man. So very good. Also, best cover B. I did not show the cover B because it might bother some people, but it's a pancake getting murdered. So if you don't mind a little bit of implied gore, you should definitely look up the cover B for the fourth man, because
I mean, if you thought the Doomsday Clock with the Rorschach pancakes were too tame, then you'll like the B. It's sideways with more murder. Yes. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So was Sideways the one where it's like him drinking a lot of wine?
Yeah.
That one, I love him so much, but that one was hard to watch.
It's a kind of cringe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love Lucy Liu in it though.
Yeah. All right. The Death of Doctor Strange, Bloodstone. So Bloodstone has been kind of in the comic book rumor mill for a little while. Like, to find a Bloodstone #1 right now is expensive. So previous to the rumor mill, you could pick up a Bloodstone #1 for like 50 cents in the 50 cents bin, and that's not happening anymore. So this is, I think her first name is Elsa. I'm going to be kicked in the face by all of my friends that are in the know if I got it wrong. The good thing about this one is that you don't need to know anything about her as a character, except for, well, actually, you don't need to know anything. They actually tell you everything in a very easy way in the book. It's not one of those books that they spend the entire time. This is blah, 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 blah. This is their power. This is how they operate. It's just part of the action, so you figure it out. You find out about her brother in this one, which I think is a known character from before, but you find out that she has a sister, which that's the first appearance thing in here. For the first appearance of her sisters in this. And where this fits in the greater universe of the Death of Doctor Strange is the reason why she has kind of come to the forefront and has been important is because with the death of Doctor Strange means the loosening of control of all things that are magic. And there are things that are coming through that he, as the Sorcerer Supreme, was protecting the rest of the Earth from. And since he's not there to do it, then things are sneaking through. So she is, by design, a monster hunter, but also works with magic. So, and there's some other crazy things that happen in this book. So, and she's been part of the universe, but I don't remember her being in a Marvel book for 10 years or something. So, and she's a good, strong female protagonist. So, with a lot of damaged back history. So, this one's a good kind of like, I don't know anything, but I want to know everything.
Yeah.
This is the book.
That's awesome. Yeah, that one immediately intrigued me. I didn't know anything about her, but I wanted
all her
to.
power. Her family gets power from stones.
All right, another one. So I've got 2 more that were from last week. That, especially because DC had a very light release this week. There's not a ton out, so you know what? I had a whole back week of indies to read. So I got to read Pantha #1. This one, new one from Dynamite, new series, and it is not what I expected in the beginning, because it definitely does get into the action, everything, but honestly, what I'm going to compare this to kind of is The Wicked and the Divine, which is not what I expected. But so it starts off with this story about this Egyptian queen who, for various reasons and motivations that are selfish, gets on the bad side of a goddess who is at that point posing as an Egyptian god. But it sort of works in the way that the gods in this universe they've created move through time. It's the same entities, but they're changing form as society progresses. Mm-hmm. So then it goes into the present. It goes from ancient Egypt to give you this backstory. It goes into the present and introduces you specifically to this one character who is like a big pop star. Like in the past, he would have been like an Egyptian god or something, or like a Greek god, but now he's like a pop star because that's what people idolize, and he just becomes, perfect. And they have a whole meeting, it's all organized, and like they're having a meeting basically of all these gods, and things start going wrong. Oh, no. So it's wild. There's so much supernatural. Like it really surprised me. I did not expect to be like, this is like The Wicked and the Divine. Like I did not expect this book to have that comparison, but it's awesome. So it's got lots of action too. It's definitely going to be ramping up with the action. I see it coming like in future ones. But
who's writing that one?
I don't know.
Find out. I gotta know. This is gonna make me crazy.
Let's see here. Who is writing it? Thomas Snigowski and Janine Akison.
Oh, cool. So I don't recognize them. I'll have to look them up and see what else they're doing. Very cool.
Tom Snigowski has been doing a lot of the non-Sonja, non-Vampirella stuff at Dynamite.
Oh, cool. Okay, so I'm gonna go look at all that stuff. All right. Daredevil, Woman Without Fear starts this week. And I feel like I would push it closer to you than it is. Okay, I'm not gonna hit you with this book, I swear. What has been happening in the main Daredevil story book is that Daredevil went to jail, and Elektra stepped into his place, and so now this is her own book, which also gets you to, this is not first appearance but is origin. So this storyline actually touches on the woman who looks like a girl. She looks really young. The person who pulled her into the hand and trained her, and then she was essentially supposed to draw also Matt Murdock in. The hand is, I don't know, probably not a good thing to be part of. Probably a good thing to train with, and then double cross. Mm-hmm. But this book really delves a whole bunch into that, and then also to current day storylines, which kind of deal with her relationship with Matt, and some other characters that have touched their lives. But I'm glad to see her get her own book. She's a really good Daredevil,
and I love her costume. I love it because you can tell it was really inspired by like actual like martial arts, like fighting, uniforms and stuff that they wear. And I love it. I think it's because it's so practical too. It's like it's
not going to fall off accidentally.
Yeah.
And it's Zdarsky, by the way. If you follow writers, and Zdarsky is so great at writing emotional stories.
So last one that actually released last week that your comic book store might just be getting in or just have gotten in late last week, so it's probably still on the shelf. This is from Aftershock, and this is Bylines in Blood. And this is my second one because I read the Fourth Man, and then I read this one. I was like, wow, this is a crime week. It's a week of crime.
Ooh, I like crime.
And this one is so good. It is where the fourth man is like very grounded and like I think it might take place in the 80s or 90s. I'm not sure. Like this one is in the future, not like the far future, but sort of just future enough to be dystopian, where actually a pandemic of some sort has come through. I don't know if they got inspired by what's happening now or if this was already written a long time ago, but so you're following this character, the main character, who is going in. She lives in the city, which is totally it's just a mess. There's crime. It's like, I mean, it's just brutal. There's, like I said, there's some sort of pandemic that's been going on. And this is definitely a book for Minute to Skim It. This was a little bit of a harder book for me to read because this one is like one of those you can really sit down. They put so much time and effort into like the story and the backstory and everything, but
hard to read quickly then.
Yeah. But very, very good. And so basically she is a private detective and she's going out. They show, right, you see her on like a job first thing. You get the idea that she is not really like a moral person. She's not worried about if she's like doing the right thing necessarily. She's doing whatever her client pays her to do, basically. Like she's just trying to, kind of one of those like the city has sort of rubbed off on her. And then she gets a visit from somebody that the daughter of an old friend who says that her friend has been murdered. He was murdered and his body was just left on the street for 4 days before anybody came and got it. Like, that's how bad this city has gotten. Like, it's bad. And so this is going to be the story of both her trying to, like, think back on, like, who she used to be, because she wasn't always this, like, hard-boiled private detective, and, kind of looking back at the past and also trying to figure out who murdered her friend, like who murdered this person. And it's really interesting. There's almost like a cult that's like obsessed with filming themselves at all times and like live streaming themselves at all times. So that's really interesting.
Of course.
It's like it's got some very interesting little like hooks in it too. So that's Bylines in Blood. It was very, very good. I'm excited to see where that story goes.
Kyle says futuristic crime noir.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Cool. I'm definitely going to take the Fourth Man Home and Bylines in Blood because that's so totally amazing. All right. I didn't get to read, I don't think, the last session number 1. Was it you? Did you read last session number 1?
I did not. I missed it that week. Yeah.
Okay. So here's I read number 2 because it's a Mad Cave book and I know I like Mad Cave. So I wanted to get kind of an idea. So this one is an interesting book. This one kind of like is a bunch of friends that are living everyday life, but then they are also talking about essentially this D&D sessions that they're playing, right? So the cool thing is that it goes very smoothly in between just them having their everyday lives and straight into their fantasy world. So this is kind of what I imagine, like this is the very best version of, when your friends who are playing a D&D that you're not part of, when they sit you down and want to tell you everything that happened in their D&D game, and you're like, really shoot me now, because I wasn't in it, so it's not as an alive place for me as it is for you because you were playing it. This is much better because it's like as if you got to go into the session with them and played it like a movie. That's so much better. Yeah. I was like, I feel bad when I explain it to people. I'm like, you see that dead look on my face?
I have to chime in as the person who helped Miss Jen get the PDFs of this. The last session number 1 came out last month. This week is last session number 2. I included both because for Dan and I's show, we needed to read both in order to be able to give proper backstory.
Okay. So one would have wrapped it up for me more.
Yep.
Perfect. But this is to say, I didn't read number 1 and I enjoyed number 2 very much. So if you are, especially if you're into RPGs and D&D and high fantasy and all that kind of fun stuff, it's a really, really cute book with awesome art. So cute. The art is exactly like that, but not in black and white because it's just a photocopy.
Alrighty. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna do this one next.
Mm.
This one is Robin and Batman number 3. So this is a series which if you watched before when I did one of these, because I reviewed 1 and I reviewed 2 because I have loved this series. I've been following it to make sure that it stays with being the new thing that I recommend to people who don't usually read comics. It is such a good story. Oh my goodness. And it's only been 3 issues. It is absolutely awesome. This last one is just like, it just made my heart ache because it's so good, and it's emotional in the way that it's like very hopeful. And this series has just been absolutely incredible. I mean, it's Lemire and Wynn together, so it's like that heartfelt like storytelling with the beautiful like watercolor sort of art. And so in this one, this is the last one, and we're seeing Robin continue after the first 2, where it's really about him becoming Robin and him coming to terms in this one, really deciding if he wants to be Robin. You know, he's been through a little bit in the first 2. He's been struggling with it. He's trying to still go to school at the same time, which also sassy Alfred. Alfred is so sassy. He throws something at Batman in this book and is like, boom, get it done. Like that's the Alfred we get. Like, it is awesome. And really, like I said, it's such a short little series they've made here, but you just see Robin like young and like working through all of this, and you see Batman trying to be a dad, even though, you know, like fighting that, but needing to be a parent to this child he's adopted, you know. So this has been a wonderful series. Like I said, we're definitely gonna have some in the shop, as just like, if there's someone in your life that is curious about comics, this is really accessible. Everybody knows who Batman and Robin are, and you literally don't have to know anything else, like, at all about comics to read this and enjoy it and think it's an awesome story. So
I think it's always good to have some of those books that you know that you can pick up for a friend, that you just like, here's amazing art and one of the top writers in all of comics.
Yeah.
If you read this and it isn't your thing, maybe comics aren't yours.
Yes.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
So the silly question from Joe is, did She-Hulk #1 come out this week? Unless it came out in a very weird way and that they just denied us all copies and didn't put it on our invoice at all, I don't think so. I think that must have gotten pushed to another week. So I have no thoughts on it. My thoughts are empty. All right. Boss and Rosenberg are just killing it with this book. What's the furthest place from here? #3 is out this week.
Mm-hmm.
You remember last issue, #2, the R group that we've been following, this family, which is not a family at all, but this is a group of kids that are part of the same post-apocalyptic family group.
Found family.
Chosen family.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did they choose each other? I know. When we saw them last, they had been kind of like kicked out of, lost their rights to whatever the place they were living.
Mm-hmm.
So they had just arrived at another place that they had kind of like, they went on a big epic journey and ended up at this place. And so you get to meet who's in this house, because it's not empty. Of course,
Mm-hmm.
That would be way too easy. It kind of feels like these kids are kind of like hermit crabs, where they outgrow their houses and have to go find somewhere else, but maybe that place is already owned by somebody and wait for them to outgrow it or whatever. Okay, so the people that are there they look like old people.
Mm-hmm.
And so this story, in the most creepy fashion possible, has them sit down to a giant family dinner with these people that appear to be grandpa and grandma age. And you just have this really sick feeling in your stomach, like you've entered Terminus again for Walking Dead, and you just are so afraid. And this is where the writing for this book is so good, that I'm not going to tell you whether it takes you there or doesn't take you there, or takes you somewhere that's even worse. But I'm telling you that the emotional journey that you go on in this book is worth all of it. It's just like that, all those feelings you had in Four Kids Walk Into a Bank, where you're like, this is just a train wreck. The whole thing's a train wreck. Why would anyone write this or read it? Can't look away. Can't look away. Recommend it to everyone I know, right?
Yeah.
It's totally that story where you're like, oh, these people.
It reminds me of when I don't know if you ever did this as a kid, but like when you would get in the tire and roll down the hill. And if you just get in the tire and then you're just going and having a good time, but if you get in the tire anticipating you're going to have any control or know where you end up, like, you know, so tire down a hill book.
Yeah, I'm down for just anything that Boss and Rosenberg work on together. I just know. So good. You need me to go twice, don't you?
Probably.
Okay. This one I kind of feel like, you know, Marvel has these cool voices books that they do. This one's a heritage one. I can't remember what the titles of any of the other ones are. You don't need to have any of the other ones to read any of the others. Imagine that they are each one its own anthology, which is to say that there are quite a few stories in this book. I think there's 5. And they all have a common theme. In this one is all native heritage stories. And that's, it includes some first peoples that you would not normally expect. Like normally we just expect to see, you know, Cherokee and whatever. But this one touches on some others that I really love very much. And like the first story has the ones you're used to from Marvel, Warpath and all those, Echo and all the ones we've learned to know. But there are some in the middle 2 stories that I'm not familiar with at all. There's one that's so good. It deals with a character that may have existed in real early Marvel stuff. Somebody Eagle, and I can't remember their whole name. It's something Eagle, but it visits them when they're later in life, when they're older. And he is going to like comic book conventions and being the person that, you know, sits and gets autograph stuff, but not the person that has the biggest, longest line, right? People that you see that you're like, oh, I love that dude or I love that girl, but their line is low because they're not the newest, hottest thing. So he's living through that part of his life, and kind of you see some humiliations he has to endure, where like at the end of the show he gets his money from the person that runs the show, and he asks about the next show that they're going to do, and they're like, well, maybe we'll have you sit out that one, but the really big one that's coming beyond that, we want to. So it's just, you can kind of see the little death by 1,000 cuts of the character, but then you get to see this really awesome redemption story for that one. So that's just one of the stories in here. So I do recommend this one. It doesn't feel like it's going to tie to anything. It might have a first appearance in there. They usually do. And one of the stories does have one of the new Captain America characters that they introduced in the Untold United States one. So lovely reading. Enjoy it.
Alrighty. Well, if Robin and Batman is a nice, peaceful book that we can recommend to lots of people who are not familiar with superheroes, this is the opposite. This is Justice League versus the Legion of Superheroes. And this is the loudest book I've ever read.
The loudest book you've ever read? The loudest
book I've ever read.
Oh my.
There are so many people in this book, and they're literally talking over each other. And like it was a pretty, you know, it was a pretty good book, but it was very, like, I was tired when I got done reading it, because so you've got the Legion of Superheroes, which I'm not really familiar with very well. And I swear there are multiple pages in this where every single person, there's more people than are like on this cover, are all talking with speech bubbles at the same time. I didn't know where to look. I was like lost in the sea, and I'm like, trying to follow, like, wait, who's saying this? Like, it was, whew, but yeah, so it's a really interesting book because it's, you know, the Legion of Superheroes. So I hadn't really encountered them very much. I don't know how much we've seen of them. Like I said, I'm new to them. They have some very cool characters, some very cool kind of like alien, like it's all much more like alien based. And there's this weird like evil thing that's happening that's like just where like darkness just like consumes people. So it's
Doesn't
really
sound good for them.
wild. Yeah, and somehow some of them end up in on Earth with the Justice League, but then that's not where they really are. Like I said, I did struggle with this book some because I don't know what was happening. Like, yeah.
For true fans, aficionados of these two teams, probably an amazing book. For brand new people that have never seen them, it might be.
This would be way too overwhelming. Like I said, I mean, it's interesting, but like I said, it is. Whew,
is it like showing up to a family reunion and you realize it wasn't yours?
I don't know. I can't imagine. But it had the feel of like you walk into a room where there's a lot of people talking. So it is that family reunion vibe of just like a lot of conversations are happening all on top of each other, but trying to like read it and like get cohesive story, you know, from it. I did struggle. But like I said, it was interesting. There's some really interesting characters in it. And the funny thing is it says versus. Like,
is there no fighting?
There's no, they're not fighting each other yet. I mean, like I'm not sure. I mean, that's kind of nice that they're friends. But...
I know what's going to happen.
What?
It's going to be like a giant game of telephone where someone on one side of the room says something and it'd be like, did you hear what blah blah says? And then like by the time it gets to the other side of the room, it's like Superman hates you.
Oh,
and
my
then
goodness.
That's what's going to happen.
Oh, I'm just imagining like a full 2-page spread, and it just starts and just like clockwise or like counterclockwise around. That would be hilarious to see in a book.
There are some creators that are the masters at doing that. Actually, Tyler Boss is amazing at that, where it's like a double page spread, and your eye is supposed to follow these characters through the page because they're on the page multiple places, right? And the speech bubbles take you through. He's the master at doing that, where you're just like, I've never ever gone, oh no, which way do I go now? Where's my eye supposed to go?
Yeah. And you hear like in his writing, you hear his characters exactly what they're saying and the pace they're saying it at. I don't know how he does that. But.
All right, I have to look up to the two words in Star Wars. If it's not your Star Wars, you know, like from when you were a kid, when they introduce new names of things, sometimes hard. All right, so Martian Row is part of the Everini. Okay, so this is the story of the Everini, which sounds like a really dumb name, by the way. Just that's me. Makes me think of pasta. Everini are escaping their home planet. This is like an origin story, okay? Yeah. So the Everini are leaving their home planet. The people that are like going to do it get into one ship and try to escape. That doesn't work for them so well. This is about this father and son relationship between Martian Rowe and I can't remember his dad's name to save my life, who used to be at the end of the first act of this book, the dad ends up being like assigned this very important position of the eye, which is kind of weird. It's like a helmet with like this circle thing on it. Okay, you'll recognize it as soon as you see it as being part of the Star Wars lore. This book is awesome because it actually goes back and explains the relationship and between father and son, and how the father truly pushes the son to being who he is. Essentially, imagine if your father said, hey, the future of all of our people is going to rely on my son, who in this instance looks like he's like 5.
Oh.
He's going to fly a ship versus all the ships you can bring to bear. And if he wins, then you guys are beholden to me forever. And the other way around, my family line ends.
Oh.
It's essentially the things that are
Yeah.
at stake. So it's so cool. The art is amazing. There is a big space battle, of course, and then you get to see the birth of a very important character. And I'm just guessing, because this is Star Wars High Republic, and that this one may not have been seen anywhere else, or maybe the character's been introduced in the main High Republic, but this is the origin story for you, so you can see how important they are. But way cool, and it's Ryan Brown cover art.
Do I do another one? I've only got one left. This was a light reading week for me. I have been working really hard on inventory this week, and I'm tired, so it was just a small reading week for me.
Hey Bean,
Yes.
you need all of these to like. So you're gonna like give them to all of your future children's if you have them.
Oh yeah.
Because this is essentially a hey kids, read this book that will inspire you to want to follow the sciences, specifically the sciences that will take you into space.
That's awesome.
So, but it's not dumb like, here's the things you need to learn.
Yeah.
It is an inspirational story about this kid who doesn't have a really good life at school, gets picked on a lot, and has this dream about going to the moon, and the kids tease him about that. And he makes like a kind of a wish, not upon a star or anything, but he kind of like makes a universal wish that he could go to the moon. And I think he goes to bed at night and wakes up there where there's an astronaut who talks to him about it. So it's just darling. And it is this beautiful Stefano Carselli art, the entire book, which you recognize their art from. There's another Scout book that they did that I absolutely love. Oh, I can't remember it. But pick this up. This one is a Scoot book, which means that it's designed for all ages, but it is so delightful. If you're an adult, you'll read it and say, yes, this is the book I needed when I was growing up, to be like, yes, follow your dreams. You absolutely should. And I've already messaged Stefano and asked him if I could buy the cover art, if it exists in some form other than just, digitally. And I'm sure since they probably live on the other side of the planet, I won't hear from them soon.
Yeah.
Is there a specific particular type of paper to draw and illustrate on for a comic book? Oh, yes, absolutely. So Bristol board is a universal constant for comic books. Bristol board you can buy in pads from any hobby store. So I usually look at Michael's or Hobby Lobby, but if you don't have those near you, you'll know them because they usually come in a big pad is yellow on the front cover. The best stuff I know is from Strathmore, but I know there's a couple different companies. It's a really heavyweight paper that accepts ink really well, so that you don't have ink that smears. So as long as you let it dry for just 1 second, if you're putting ink on it. And sometimes you can find pads of it that are made for comic book creating. And by this, I mean that they have what's called blue line on it, because for printing of comic books, they have lines that are on the paper for artists. And sometimes they just draw them on their own if they're doing it on their own Bristol board. But it's what's called the bleed line. So when they print a book, they have this line at which the image, that's the edges of the image. So you can go over that, but it's not going to be seen on it when it gets printed. So I hope that's helpful to you, comic book jackpot. I used to ink books, so I know my things. All right, you want to do yours?
I'll do my last one.
I got like 4, and then they're just gonna have to hear me talk. Sorry.
All right, so my last one is Batgirls number 2. Which, like I said, this one was so hyped. I was so excited about this one. And actually, if you read Batgirls number 1, it kind of leaves on kind of a confusion thing of like, what the heck just happened? This one begins with clarification of like, oh, this is who that was. Like, and we get introduced like to some of the coolest villains. Like, I am absolutely in love with the villains that we get introduced to in here. I don't know if their first appearance. I was trying to figure out if it was first appearance of them, but there's it's like a 3-villain team.
Oh.
And I know that one of them's name is a Sissy, and then I believe it was Tarsus, And then the one I really loved was named Valentine.
Ooh.
And it's like, she's like, they refer to her as an urban samurai. And she has like metal, like on her, like metal, like leg, like robot leg things, like supplements on her legs where she can like jump really high. She's got like swords. She's so cool. Like, she's the bad guy, so boo, but like, she's very cool. And so this one starts off, we get to meet them. Like I said, I don't know, I've never seen them before. I don't know if it's first appearance, but I don't know, I hope I see them again. So it starts off, and this one is sort of clarifies what we saw in the first one, where they were just moving into a new neighborhood and were running into bad guys and weird stuff that's been happening. This one, it starts off with clarification of who those bad guys were that they were having to fight and why, and sort of the backstory of it. Also features the big bad coming in as a big hologram head, so I love that. that's always a great detail whenever he's like, all right, henchman, here's the plan. It's like a big hologram. So this one, it really starts getting into it, because, and I was like, I'm gonna keep reading probably the first couple of this series. I'm not sure how long it's gonna go on, just because I was so excited for it, and it has actually lived up to my hype, because it's exciting. There's a lot of action that's going on, and you're also getting like this very personal feel of these three Batgirls who are all living together and dealing with sort of the fact that they just moved, the fact that they're being stalked basically by this like other villain that was already, you know, the whole story has happened before this story. So this has been absolutely wonderful. The art matches this all throughout. The art is absolutely gorgeous. And this color palette, like this sort of like over, I don't know, if is that the right word, like like kind of saturated, like really
super
bright
saturated
colors, yeah. And it just, like I said, I think that's part of me why I love these new villains so much, because they just pop, like they look so crazy, like I love it. So like I said, this one, even if your LCS doesn't bag and board things, like you can just like look inside of here, because they are like the coolest.
Even you can carefully open it up and look in there. I'm sure they're happy with it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so here you guys, you ready with your pens and pencils, whatever? It's an India ink by Higgins. You can get it also at your local craft shop. It's usually sitting somewhere near the calligraphy ink. I have a bottle of Higgins Black India ink that I've been using since 1995, and I still haven't replenished it. So it lasts forever. You just have to make sure it's sealed really well. You don't like leave it half open, because then it'll get thick and gross. But yeah, it is. I don't know if that's the industry standard stuff, but that's what I see every single person using that isn't a pen inker, because you can also pen ink, and then I can get you through like a million options for that. Just send me a DM. I can tell you all the stuff that I use. I am a brush inker, just so that you guys know. Brush inker. I don't use pen, except for to make the lines on the outside. All right, Amazing Spider-Man number 85. In 84, we saw Doc Ock, Otto Octavius show up and say, what in the world is going on here? People that have stolen all my ideas. So he really specifically talks about that in this one, that whatever her name is, Miranda, or whoever's running the company right now, Beyond Incorporated, he's gone and looked at their source code and information, and it's totally all the stuff that he did and made while he owned Parker Industries when he was in Peter Parker's body. Hey man, I don't make this stuff up. This is the way it goes. This is the serious storyline. Yeah. And that was after he was in a robot body, robot butler body. Comic books are awesome, y'all. Yeah. Awesome.
This storyline has become like the weekly drama. Like every time you go to pick it up, I'm like, spill the tea, Miss Jen, on what's happening. Like,
and Doc Ock kind of pokes at Ben here, because he says, "Do you wonder why that company chose you to be Spider-Man? Is it not that they thought you were easily manipulated to do what they want you to? Here's a disc that tells you what their interior company memo is regarding.
Oh,
So, boom! Drop the mic.
Pulled out the receipts on him, huh?
Yes. So is it spun off of older Superior Spider-Man? No, this is so Ben Reilly is Spider-Man right now. Ben Reilly is the Spider. So yeah. Now, if you want to talk about Superior Spider-Man, you need to get the other thing. The Superior 4 is what you need to get. Okay. Hell Sonja #1 is really, really good. So I got to talk to Chris Hastings, on, I don't even know what day of the week it is, Monday, on Talking Shop. And this is what I learned about that series. So Chris wrote Sonja Versal, which looked at Red Sonja and said, what if there were a bunch of different versions of her that existed? I don't think it's supposed to be a multi-Earth thing. I just think that there's different versions of her out there. This one takes that even farther, where there's a central character who wants to gather them together. And so you get introduced to a whole bunch of different versions of Red Sonja in this one. There's Red Sonja, Blue Sonja, Moon Sonja, Gold Sonja, and Purple Sonja. I know those all sound ridiculous, but they are totally not. They all have very specific things about them. Yeah. Like Gold Sonja is more like an AI being. Blue Sonja is more like if you had like a version of her that was kind of like a mercenary that used guns, for example. So they're being all gathered together in order to do a hell thing. Hence Hell Sonja. So it's so good. I always want to hate these books because it's just like, oh, it's just a money grab. They just want to, but it's not. And the way that Chris says is that every single issue is at least going to have one new bad guy, because that's part of the whole like storyline of what's going on here. So enjoy Hell Sonja. Oh my word. Okay, so if you put someone like Joe Hill, who writes really good horror, and David Boer, who writes really good emotional, character-driven things, then you're going to get magic. This is Rain. And I don't want to tell you a whole bunch about it for fear that it's going to rob you of some of the really great storytelling that's in here. I'll just give you kind of basis. So it's at its heart, way I feel like the David Boer part of the story about is that these two women and their relationship with each other. It's the early days of like they realize that they like each other. It's from her point of view. Them telling their families for the first time, them deciding to move together, those kinds of things. Just the sweetest part of every relationship, right? That discovery of like, how is this going to work and all that stuff. Put that on top of the Joe Hill part of it, the horrifying part, in that there is an event that happens in which the rain that falls from the sky is like ice spears that kills most people and everyone that's outside. Yes, emotional train wreck. Bring hankies. Put this on your pull list. Do yourself a favor. Put it on your pull list. You're going to get caught short and be sad if you don't have it. I'm telling you right now. And it's like, look at this lineup. Zoe Thorogood for art and Chris O'Halloran. I mean, can it get any better?
I'm so excited to read that.
It can only get better if Jeff Lemire squeaked in there and some Cullen Bunn.
Yeah.
And then probably perfect for all time. Is it heightening your agoraphobe? Oh no. Don't go outside. You can't go outside anymore. And then Vault has an amazing release this week called We Ride Titans, in which it's so weird. The copy that I got, because I had to do this by PDF, for some reason only allowed me to read the first 6 pages. Like I was like, I wasn't allowed to know more. But from what I can tell, it really does look like, if you like kaiju and Jaegers and fast driving cars. This is going to be your series for sure. And I love all of those things. So
Yeah.
it can't any better. The characters that it introduced, I've really enjoyed very much. It looks like they're very complex characters that are going to keep me on the edge of my seat for what in the world they're going to do now. And that is all we had time to read this week.
Yeah.
And like I said, this is your opportunity to find a local comic shop near you. If you don't have one, use comicshoplocator.com and connect with them. You just need a zip code. You'll be able to find all the ones near you very simply. Give them a call up and say what days you open and what are your hours and what are your requirements for coming inside, and be really sweet to them because they're just holding on like all us small businesses. Just whatever those rules are, say, I'll do that.
Yeah.
And just go and support them. They're doing their very best in this crazy world. And they love comic books, and you love comic books.
Yeah. This week, if somebody came in and they had a certain look about them, and I asked them, "Oh, did you need help finding anything?" and they say, "Well, not yet," and I just go ahead and kindly inform them, we don't have any timeless Miss Minutes covers, and we don't have any Thor number 20. And you
Is
know
that just what you say?
2 people left after that because they were looking for that, basically. So it was a hot week, but you know what? I was helpful.
Just cut to the chase. If you're looking for the two impossible finds, we don't have those right now.
Yeah.
All right, thank you guys so much. Stay tuned. There's other cool stuff coming up on the experience. Make sure you hit that subscription button, mash it, because we have the EXP Expo coming up very soon, starting on the 15th, I believe. We have a big lineup. I've got so many people, artists, creators, publishers, etc., that we've been connecting. The publishers have been the producers have been connecting. We've got a great lineup. Let's do it. Do I have COVID home tests here? No, I don't sell those. Sorry. Oh, everyone leaves.
Those are on the same truck with all those books.
Yeah.
Oh,
bye, everybody. We're so
Bye.
glad to see you. Stay safe.